So this is about to be one of the nerdiest videos I've ever made. Hey everybody, welcome back. Today I have something kind of different for you. This video, which I am calling Habits and Self-Care, it will hopefully be the first in an ongoing series of videos talking about nurturing the creative animal. And what I mean by that is, what are the things that we as creative individuals need to do in order to maintain our creativity and all the rest of us, all the rest of our parts. And so today I want to focus on the topic of self-care and the role of habits within self-care. So let's start with some definitions. Forgive me for a second. I'm going to read this directly off the screen because this is a quote and I want to make sure I get it verbatim. But self-care has been defined as providing adequate attention to one's own physical and psychological wellness. That was from a 2001 study by individuals named Beauchamp and Childress, and it was quoted in an article called The Unspoken Truth About Self-Care by Jennifer Dixon, and I will link that article in the description below if you want to check it out and do a little more research. But I wanted to start with that because I think that there's sometimes a little bit of miscommunication out there about what exactly self-care is, right? You see a lot of cute Instagram, or at least I see a lot of cute Instagram posts about, self-care manicures and bubble baths and all of those things are great and can be an important part of taking care of yourself. But when it comes down to it, the core of self-care is really what Duran quoted in this article, which is to say that it's taking care of your own physical and psychological wellness. And both sides are important, right? Because how many times have you ever been tense and it's given you a tension headache? The mind is linked to the body and vice versa, right? So if you're not feeling well, you're typically not in a great mood. And if you're not in a great mood, you can't be creative. Consequently, long-term psychological ailments, depression, anxiety, those can have very real physical manifestations that can have long-term ramifications for your health. And there's a ton of examples, and I don't really want to go into any of that specifically, but there's just so much evidence that the mind and the body are linked. And so taking care of one can indirectly have or even really directly, can have a beneficial effect on the other as well. So to sort of address that myth, the way that I think of it is that self-care is responsibility, meeting your own needs, and preventative maintenance for yourself as a physical and psychological machine, if you will. You can't take care of other people until you take care of yourself. And that's a lesson that I learned as a mom. But it's one that I've also carried over as a leader in my military career, and continue to see manifest in my family life. If I am not operating at my best, then the people who rely on me, whether it's as a pilot in a helicopter or as a member of my family team taking care of my kids or and my husband, or as a member of a publishing house doing social media work and engagement for my own books and other people's books, if I'm not at my best, I can't give my best, if that makes sense. Self-care is not self-indulgence. Now, sometimes, like I said, I do want to caveat, doing something nice for yourself, giving yourself a treat can be an important part of self-care, but it's not the be-all end-all of it. That's kind of the distinction that I'm drawing there. More importantly, self-care isn't frivolous. It's not, because there's a lot of conversation about it right now, it can seem like it's something that's maybe trendy, but it really needs to not be a trend. It needs to be almost a way of life for yourself, particularly if you're a creative individual, because you have, in order to nurture that creative spark in yourself, you can't let physical health or mental health drain away that fire, if that makes sense. And that's why self-care is not negotiable, right? So 3 things that it is, 3 things that it isn't. Now, here's where it's going to get nerdy. In aviation, we have this thing called the I'm Safe checklist. And I'm Safe is an acronym. It stands for illness, medication, sleep, activity, alcohol, fatigue, and eating. I've adapted the I'm Safe checklist for myself personally as a sort of self-care checklist. So if I'm feeling off, if a story is not working, if I've just been in a terrible mood for the last several days and I can't really figure out why, this is what I go back to, is these very basic fundamental pieces of, am I taking care of myself, right? Do I feel ill? Do I have a cold? Do I have an ongoing medical issue that I need to resolve, or that I am in the process of resolving, or am in the process of dealing with, but that is draining my energy? And if that is the case, do I need to make allowances for that? Is there something that I can do to mitigate that? Medication. Am I on medication? Do I need to take my medication? Those things obviously can affect our performance, and whether that be, again, in aviation or in creativity. And so they at least need to be addressed and thought of.
S is for stress. Stressful events that take place in our lives are going to have a toll on your performance. Again, whether that be in aviation or in creativity. It's very difficult to focus on the task at hand when part of your attention and your internal resources are being pulled away because you've got stressful life events going on. It happens to everyone. And it's not something that can always be avoided, but it's important, again, like all of these things, to at least address the issue of stress and see if maybe there isn't a way to mitigate it or to lessen the effects of it so that you can continue to do whatever it is you set out to do.
A. In aviation, in the aviation I'm Safe checklist, A usually stands for alcohol, meaning has it been at least 12 hours since I've had an alcoholic drink before I'm trying to fly, right? 12 hours bottle to throttle. I'm not here to judge your life. If you're feeling off and it might be because you had too much to drink the night before, fair enough. Again, just like with illness, understand that, take steps to mitigate it, overcome it if you can. But I also like to substitute in the word activity, because I have noticed for me that there is a direct linkage between my creative output and the energy that I put into maintaining my physical fitness. Okay. Now I'm not trying to be a bodybuilder. I'm not trying to be a fitness model. But I know that that my body is happier and functions better, and I feel less achy and creaky and old and stiff if I am continuously keeping it moving, right? It's that whole objects in motion tend to stay in motion. Obviously that's Newton and it's physics, but but it was quoted in like a Celebrex commercial in this context, and I think it's kind of true, right? So for me, it's activity. Is have I been working out consistently, or do I need to get up and move around a little bit and get the blood flowing? Fatigue is different than sleep. This is a big one. A lot of creative people that I know have problems with sleep. And strangely enough, a lot of aviators I know have problems with sleep too. Throughout my military career, I've frequently had to switch between a day schedule and a night schedule, and that has kind of jacked up my circadian rhythms all over the place. And that's fairly common in the community that I'm coming from. However, I have noticed that if I can get into a good sleep schedule, and for me, unfortunately, I need like 9 hours of sleep, which is a lot. And that's a lot of time that I'm not using for anything else. But I have to remind myself that rest is productive. Sleep is productive. Sleep is necessary for our body and our brain to process what we've gone through during the day, to, heal, injuries, to continue growth if we're young, all of those things. You really can't overstate the importance of sleep to the human physiology and the human psychology as well. So again, if I'm feeling off and if the words aren't flowing, maybe I'm tired. I mentioned switching circadian rhythms before. Fatigue can also be a cumulative effect, right? And cumulative fatigue is not easily solved by a single good night's sleep. So if you've got a small child at home, or you are a shift worker and you're changing shifts, or you're one of those people who just seem to be a night owl and you're trying to wake up at 4 a.m. to do your work, to do your writing before your day job, that might not be the optimal schedule for you. You might be setting yourself up for cumulative fatigue. And that, that is something that takes a lot of effort and a lot of time to reset back to the norm, as opposed to operating in the deficit when it comes to fatigue. And then eating. I, unfortunately, am one of those people about whom they make Snickers commercials. If I don't eat regularly, if I don't get the proper input of calories, I turn into just a raging bitch. And there's really there's no help for it, but I have to get something to eat. That being said, what I choose to eat also has a direct impact on how creative I can be and how prolific my creative output can be. If I make the effort to eat foods, a variety of foods seems to be pretty critical for me, that are healthy, that are not, I can't eat just vegetables, or I can't eat just meat. I could never be one of the carnivores or vegan or anything like that. I have to be an omnivore. And your mileage, of course, may vary. Everybody is different, but this is what works for me. I have to eat a wide variety of fruits and vegetables and grains and dairy. And if I am able to do that and eat food that nourishes and fuels my body, it will nourish and fuel my brain. And if I'm not doing that, I can definitely see a lack. So when I am feeling off or not being as productive as I would like, I have to ask myself am I hungry? Do I need something to eat? Do I need to look at my diet over the last couple of days? Have I been eating, too many high carb, salty, delicious snack chips? Which may be if that sounds oddly specific, there's probably a reason for that. So that's sort of my how do I fix it checklist, right? As I kind of go back to that super nerdy aviation checklist of I'm safe and look at where have I been. Now, once I've identified something like that, one of my favorite tricks to fixing it is actually leveraging the power of habit. There's a whole book on this. I have it. I actually haven't read through the whole thing, but it's called Atomic Habits. I'll link it in the description below if you're interested in learning more about habits. But I don't want to talk about the book because I haven't read the whole thing yet. But I do know that leveraging the power of habit has been very helpful for me in addressing some of these things. So I'm just going to talk to you about a couple of my personal self-care habits that have really, really made me some money, kind of literally, actually, over the last couple of years. The first one is I have a protein shake for breakfast every single morning. And I know I just talked about variety, but this is kind of the exception for me. The reason I do this is because it's quick and it's solid nutrition in the morning. I don't have to think about it and try to figure out, okay, what am I going to eat? And I can keep the protein powder and the other ingredients on hand because they're all sort of staple ingredients. I can keep them on hand and I don't have to worry about running out of my ingredients for my shake in the morning. It tastes amazing. And most importantly, it fuels me till lunch. Now, what I mean by that is that I don't hit 10 a.m. Even if I have my shake at 7, I don't hit 10 a.m. and then all of a sudden, I'm dying and watching the clock waiting for it to be lunchtime. I usually, if I have my shake at, sometime between 6 and 7, I am usually good to go until 11 or 12. So, which is, pretty typical lunchtime around here. The second habit that has really been helpful for me is actually doing my workout even if it's just yoga, in the morning. Now this, I will be honest with you, is one that is a harder habit for me to stick with. In fact, this past week, I haven't been doing it at all. But one of the things that I noticed is that while I made my word count this week on my writing days, it took me till 5 p.m. every single day. On days when I start my morning with a workout or even with a 30-minute yoga routine, I typically tend to finish getting to my word count much earlier. And there just seems to be something about the distinct connection between moving my body, getting my blood flowing, getting my heart rate up, getting my respiratory rate up, and actually getting those words and ideas flowing. I mentioned this third one I mentioned a little bit earlier when I talked about sleep. I seem to be a 9-hour kind of girl. And I hate it. I hate that I need that much sleep because all I want to do is stay up late and read books and watch, movies and play video games. But if I do that, I can't get up early in the morning. And so if I do stay up late, I have to be able to plan to sleep in, because if I have less than 9 hours of sleep, I'm not getting any words that day. And I've seen that consistently since I started this journey of tracking my word count and paying attention to my habits and kind of trying to set myself up as a full-time writer. It's just impossible for me to create if I'm tired. And that just seems to be the way that it is. So I have to set myself up for 9 hours of sleep. I do still enjoy staying up a little bit later because I like to have a little bit of time after the kiddo goes to bed. So right now I'm shooting for a bedtime between 10 and 11. And then, about 9 hours later, whatever time I go to bed, that's what time I set my alarm for. So the fourth habit, this is what I do. Obviously, again, your mileage may vary. I genuinely benefit from a regular prayer practice. Now, this could be any sort of spiritual practice, whatever fits you and your belief system, or if you don't have a belief system, any sort of meditation or just kind of time out that lets you sort of get out of your own thought whirl. For me, it's that time of a regular prayer where I can concentrate on the things that I am grateful for and feel connected to something larger than myself. The fifth habit, was it 5? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes, fifth habit is recreational reading, viewing, or gaming. Basically, in order to tell stories, I need to consume stories. And I need to consume stories that are not my stories or that are not research for my stories. So a lot of times when I'm writing, like right now I'm writing space opera, so I'm reading noir mysteries, like historically set noir mysteries. And I'm playing Skyrim, which is a epic fantasy game, or Cyberpunk, which is a cyberpunk game. So it's helpful to me not to recreate in a different genre than what I'm trying to create in, if that makes sense. But again, your mileage may vary. The point for me is that I have to allow my brain a chance to take a break and not be responsible for what happens next, or how am I developing this character, or what's the cool thing that needs to occur at this point in the story. The final thing, and I actually have a video that I will link below and put in a card right here, if I remember. Right here. The final thing is I like to use my planners to stay organized. This comes from two places. The first one is that I tend to be a little bit, squirrel. And so having a planner where I can write down, these are the things I need to accomplish today, these are the things that I have scheduled today, helps me to remain on task, stay focused, and most importantly, not forget important shit that's coming up. So that's pretty key. But then the other piece of it too is that I like pretty things. I like bright colors and sparkles and stickers. And so working in my planner is motivational because it's, I'm able to play with all the pretty stuff and put all the pretty stickers on. And it's kind of, sometimes I'll use it as a reward for myself. Once I do a certain number of sprints a day, I'll sticker my planner for the next day or whatever. I actually did that yesterday and it worked really well. So those are my main self-care habits right now, that I've got in place. Having a consistent breakfast, morning workout, 9 hours-ish of sleep, regular prayer, recreational story consumption, and then staying organized and using my planners. In addition to those, there's a couple more that I'd like to cultivate because I see a lack, and I think that doing these things could help me kind of up-level my creativity a little bit. And the first one's super easy. Drinking more water and increasing my water intake. And, everybody says this, right? Because like most humans just happen to be dehydrated all the time, at least according to my flight doc. So I know that for me, I tend to let myself get dehydrated because we get busy, right? And, the more hydrated you are, the more bathroom breaks you have to take. And that too takes time away from all of the other things that we have to do. However, being dehydrated, for me especially, I've noticed, it'll cause me to have a wicked headache, and the headache makes me get, cranky. And when I'm cranky, I am not a pleasant person to be around. And so, plus it's hard to create when you're just in that sort of terrible mood. So keeping up with the hydration is important for me to stave that sort of thing off and to prevent that sort of thing. Now, the way that I want to develop this habit is kind of by tracking my water intake and paying attention, and then setting a goal to say, okay, I weigh X amount today. So today, in order to, I need to drink 2x ounces of water. That's just like the basic formula. I think I got that from Beachbody. I'm not sure. But anyway, the point is, yet another use for my pretty sticker planner system, to be able to write that down and track that, this is how much water I drank. This is what my goal is for the day. And then the second habit that I'd like to develop goes in line with that activity piece of the I'm Safe checklist is I'd also like to incorporate more non-exercise movement. So I've started to notice that on my writing days, I'm doing a lot of sitting, and I'm starting to get stiff. I mean, I'm, 45 years old. And so sitting in one place for a long time makes my lower back kind of ache. It makes my knees sort of creaky. And I don't love it, to be honest with you. So what I'd like to do is try to focus on, taking a walk at least once a day, either with my husband or with my kiddo, or even just by myself with a podcast or something. I'm also thinking about, when we move to the new house, getting a standing desk so that I can kind of change my position while I'm writing. That's sort of a future goal, obviously, because we're getting ready to move, and there's just a lot of things that have to happen first. But incorporating more non-exercise movement into my day, I think, again, is something that I would like to try out to see if it will be as beneficial as I think it will be for my my creative output. So that's what I've got going on, and what's helpful for me. I'd really like to know, let me know in the comments if you have any self-care habits that you engage in consistently, and how you've seen them affect your creative life. Thanks so much for joining us. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. I hope that you'll enjoy this series of, nurturing the creative animal within us. If you did like the video, please give me that Chuck Yeager thumbs up, and consider subscribing, and hit the bell so that you know when I have new videos coming out. I will talk to you guys soon. Thanks again for joining me, and please remember to take care of yourselves.